All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to today's show. You are here because you are a family business owner, you're a business owner of some sort, you're an entrepreneur, and you want to learn to become time wealthy, being able to control your calendar, and maybe you just want a little bit of scratch, a little bit of extra money so you can live the life that you want. Then you are here and you are in the right place. Today we're talking about the downward debt spiral. And this is why you're going to want to avoid this at all costs. And we're going to be talking about certain types of debt here that are already types of debt that you know are bad, but maybe not for the reasons that you've been told. Maybe not for the reasons that you've been told by Susie Orman and Dave Ramsey. Not here to knock them. I think that maybe they're not giving you the full story when it comes to certain types of debt. And I will let you know this. I'm definitely more of a debt averse type person. I'm not going to say that debt is to be avoided at all costs. I don't want to go to that extreme. I see debt as a good tool in your toolbox, and you can use it to be a tool. The minute you start using your debt as a crutch, that is when it becomes a problem. And that's what we're going to talk about today is when, let's say for argument's sake, that you come into a need with your business and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Because I need, say, $10,000. And now you're thinking, oh my gosh, should I just go ahead and put that $10,000 bill on a credit card and then I'll just pay it back? Well, it could be that necessarily isn't a bad idea. But what I want to do is I want to show you maybe why that $10,000 on that credit card is actually going to cost you a ton of money. Now, before you click off and say, oh, I know it's going to be all about interest and stuff like that, please just bear with me here just a second. Yes, it's going to be a bunch of interest, but that's not really where the real cost is, and that's actually not where the real danger is. So just hang with me. I'm going to share with you a couple of things on some Excel spreadsheets that I put together. So first and foremost, let's look at this Excel spreadsheet that I put together, and it's a very simple, I'm actually going to blow that up because I know you can't see that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to show you borrow a simple $10,000, okay, so the interest rate is 23%. Your minimum payment is $250 and your balance is $97.50 after your first payment, okay? Well, that's where the wheels come off the wagon. And now at 23% interest, your interest is generating basically about $180 a day. So here's the problem, okay? Now, let me just make this really quick point here. When you are paying on a credit card, you're paying the minimum balance. You're paying a percentage of the minimum balance, okay? So this is where it's not the snake bite that kills you, it's the venom. I'm about to tell you what the venom is, so hang tight here. Yes, the snake bite, no one wants the snake bite, but it is the venom that kills you. The venom here is the minimum payments. It's not the interest. The interest just determines how long your prison sentence is going to be, and you're going to understand what I mean by that here in a minute. So when you're looking at for this example here, when you're looking at this, hold on a second, I gotta find there it is. So when you're looking at these balances, look what's happening to the minimum payments. The minimum payments are going down every month. So as the balance goes down, so does the minimum payment, right? And that becomes a real problem because yes, you're paying less and less interest, but it's just you're taking smaller and smaller and smaller chunks each and every month as you're paying that balance down. So yeah, you're paying less interest on a smaller balance, but you're also making a lower minimum payment. So I actually ran this all the way out. If you were to borrow $10,000, okay, and you ran it all the way out to where you would actually get down, and all you did was make the minimum payments every single month, and you never use that card again. Okay, look at this, 170, 190 months, 200 months, 270 months, 300 months. Look at this, hold on. Then we get down to a certain point where now we're at 370 months. Yeah, think of that in terms of years for here, just for example. When you get down to a point, the minimum payment that they will allow you to make is $20 on most credit cards. So then at 411 months, I ran this out to $20, and now finally we're making some headway on this thing because we're making some actual bigger chunks on the principal, and it gets down to 486 months. That is 40 and a half years if you only make the minimum payments at 23%. Okay? Now, you have, of course, heard things like this before. You know, if you watched different financial shows and this sort of thing. If you have not seen this before, yeah, this is a big deal, because they will keep you in debt for a really, really, really long time. Sorry if you guys couldn't see that. Let me take that downward. There we go. Okay, so you can see that there. Now you can see it's a big deal, right? 40 and a half years if you made nothing but the minimum payments all the way out. Now, actually, let me sum this in terms of what the actual, all the payments would have cost if I auto sum both of these. Hold on a second. So let me sum that column, and let me sum that column. Okay, and that is, so the total number of, what is that? That was the actual new balance. Nope, that's not relevant, but this one is. So there, okay. So the total amount that you would have actually paid over the course of 40 and a half years is $67,000 for that $10,000. Okay, so that is obviously an egregious amount of money, but you would have paid $28,000 in interest, and all told, the payments that you would have made, the minimum payments and total minimum payments would have been $38,476. So a tremendous amount of money that you guys would have paid over the course of that. So yeah, that's a lot of money. So let's look at this. Now, here's the difference. I actually ran this. I'm going to stop sharing this because I'm going to go to an amortization calculator that I created. I actually created this amortization calculator years back when I was in college. Yep, I still have it. So let me share that screen real quick. And if I actually took that amortization, or if I took that at 23% interest, okay, and amortized that over 6.39 years, that would be about a $250 payment, which is about the payment amount that we started, roughly 2.5% of the outstanding balance. Then you would pay that off in about 6.4 years, roughly, if you were amortizing that $10,000 over 6.4 years at 23%. So the difference that I'm trying to make here, now again, yeah, you're like, well, yeah, the loan structure is different. That's my point. And I'm going to make this point here just one more time. Let me go back, and I'm going to share something else with you here. I actually took and ran that credit card not at 23%, but at 6%. So follow me here just one more quick minute. Sorry, I'm clicking around here trying to get all this stuff. So when you run this credit card at 6%, right? Remember, it was 6.39 years that we would, if we amortized it over a period of just a regular payments. Again, it's the way they structure the terms. It's the way they calculate the interest. It's the way they calculate the minimum payments is that gets you on the credit cards. It's not the interest rate. And I'm going to show you here in just a second. So if I ran that credit card here, so what I did was, instead of 23%, okay, instead of 23%, I ran that at 6%, okay? So there's 6% rate, okay? Did the same thing, minimum payment of $250, starts out the same exact way, interest gets charged the same way. So let's go all the way down and see how long it takes to pay this off. Runs all the way down. We're at 48 months. We're at 60 months. We're at 100 months. We're at, oh, there we are right there. There's the $20 mark. We're already at 126 months. We're already at the $20 mark. And now this thing gets paid off in 14 years. 14 years. Okay, so less than a third of the 23%. So I'm not saying that the interest rate is irrelevant, right? The prison sentence is a lot shorter, but it's still, 8 years longer than if you amortize it over with a normal amortizing loan. So this is the problem: it is not the issue of the credit card so much as the way that they're structuring the payments. That's the problem. So what I'm talking about here is that what we're calling this is basically a loan constant, and I want to make sure that I'm making that point now. So when you're looking at a loan constant, this is how I'm calculating this based on the amount of the dollars that you're borrowing. So look at it this way. I'm going to come back to this loan calculator here in just a second. I'm going to show you something on the slides. So when you're looking at this from a perspective of of borrowing in your business, Okay. Let me go here for just a second. When you borrow that $10,000, it feels like a cash infusion. Okay, that's the problem. Is it doesn't feel like real money. It just feels like you're getting this cash infusion, and you can just, oh wait, we've only got to pay a couple $100. We've only got to pay $250 on that 10 grand. What? Hey, that vendor is happy. We're good. We get an extra we get that $10,000. We don't have to come up with 10 grand. We only got to come up with $250. Man, that's easy. Okay. The problem is it does feel like a cash infusion, and it doesn't. Unless you're treating it like 10 grand that has to be repaid and not just $250, that's the danger. Here's what I want you to think about when you're calculating loan constant or thinking about loan constant. For every $100 in debt that you borrow, I want you to think of how many dollars does it take to actually service that debt. So in this case, when you borrowed the $10,000 on an amortizing loan, let's say it was a $10,000 personal loan, right? That was going to take you 6.4 years to repay versus $10,000 that you're going to borrow on a credit card. And to stay compliant on that credit card, you're just going to pay the minimum payments, right? So that's where the problem runs. So let's get back to the original question about, well, what causes this downward death spiral? Well, when you're looking at a business that is borrowing, it gets used to borrowing that $10,000 over and over and over again, or $200,000 or whatever it is, whatever that credit card debt is, and a lot of revolving debt is like this, okay? The business starts to get used to that borrowing, and it borrows more and more and more of that high loan constant debt. Let me show you how that actually works in the math. So let's go to that calculator that I had up on the screen. Again, it's a simple Excel spreadsheet, and then we are going to land the plane on this video. But let me find that one more time. And where did you go? Oop. Sorry, guys. Okay, and there's that. Oh, here we go. So when you're looking at loan constant, here we go. So I've already got this pre-set up for you, and this is actually a very, very easy calculation to make. So I've got these values figured in. These are two amortizing loans here. It's $100,000 and $25,000. The minimum payments on that $100,000 is $800, and the loan is $525. Now, if you're calculating this, if you're using this to calculate real estate debt, you want to take out the taxes and insurance, because the taxes and insurance would need to be paid regardless if you had debt on it or not. So it's important you take the taxes and insurance out when you're actually calculating loan constant on real estate. So let's say that this first one is a piece of real estate, the second one is maybe on a car, and you have a credit card that's $19,000. So the minimum payments on that is, let's say, again, it's amortizing over 30 years, which is $800. Say you got a loan and the balance on that is $525. And the credit card, we said, is 2.5% of the outstanding balance. So let's look at to calculate loan constant, this is all you're going to do. You're going to take the minimum payment and you're going to annualize it, which means you're going to take that and multiply it times 12. Okay, so you multiply that times 12. So your minimum payment for loan one, your minimum annual payment, annualized payment, is $9,600 for loan one, $6,300 for loan two, and $5,700 for the credit card. Now, the loan constant is a very, very simple calculation. You're going to take the annual payment and divide it by the outstanding balance, and you will come up with a percentage. So that percentage on the first one is 9.6%. Well, what does that have to do? Is that expensive? Is it not? Well, it's only relative to the amount of outstanding debt that you have. So let's look at this. Your loan 2 is 25.2%, and your credit card is 30%. So again, if you go back to that question that I asked you earlier on, is if you were to borrow money, again, dollar for dollar, which is the most expensive money that you would borrow on your debt? So if you have an outstanding debt here, let me get that back up there. I'll give you the full screen. So if you're looking at this loan here, loan one, that might be the highest payment, but it's not the most expensive dollar for dollar. It's actually the cheapest money that you're paying out for every dollar that's borrowed. If you're looking at loan two, okay, that is getting a little expensive, but it's not near as expensive as that credit card. again, for every dollar that you're borrowing, for every, say, $100 that you're borrowing, how many dollars does it take to service that debt? Now, keep in mind, this is just the minimum payment. Now, there's one other quick point that I want to make here, and then we're going to kill this video. But I want you to watch what happens here when I pay down this balance. Okay, so pay attention to what happens here to the loan constant when I pay down this balance. So let's say I get a cash infusion of, say, $9,000, and I pay this balance down to $10,000. Pay attention to what happens to the loan constant. It doesn't change. Why doesn't it change? It doesn't change because the minimum payment is based on the outstanding balance of the loan. Okay? Now let's say, for argument's sake, on loan 2 that we get a cash infusion of $10,000, right? So this is going to go down to $15,000. What do you think is going to happen to the loan constant? It's actually going to go up, right? It goes up to 42%. Well, why is that? It's because you're paying down on that balance and the minimum payment has stayed the same. So this is really, really important for you to figure out, or to start to calculate this. And you can do this with all of your debts. You can start to think, okay, well, wait a second. If you put all of your debts down and you start to think about, well, wait a minute, what's the most expensive debt that I have dollar for dollar? Well, now you can start thinking about this in a really, really strategic way when you're actually looking at your capital stack. So how does this translate to a death spiral for businesses? Well, as the business gets more and more used to this type of debt, it's going to borrow more and more expensive type of debt. And if it ever runs into any sort of financial hiccup, this becomes a real problem. So what could you do? What's a business to do? Well, you could go back to your suppliers. You could, renegotiate other repayment terms. You could get a longer term type loan, right, and borrow against maybe real estate secured assets rather than buying on short term assets like against cars or using credit card debt. This is the reason why credit cards are such a bad strategy to lean up against, especially if you are going to be making just the minimum payments. So the best thing to do, and a lot of people say, well, don't use credit cards at all. I don't think declaring bankruptcy on credit cards or credit card use altogether is the best idea or the best approach. It is, however, if you know you can't trust yourself. Going to an all cash pay when you stop using credit cards altogether, if that's what you need to do, then that's what you need to do. I will tell you that from my perspective, I still track my credit card balances every single month. And sometimes I have some carryover balances, but I always track it and I make sure I get that paid off first before I go back to hammering on any other debt that I might have that's got a high loan constant. So I know there was a lot of different topics that were thrown around here. Hopefully you found this helpful. Go ahead and write in the comments. Tell me what you think of this loan constant and tell me what you're going to do in terms of hammering on your own debt in a different way so you can be out of debt with the debt that is the most expensive to your cash flow. That's all I have, everybody. See you next time.